Star date. We are still stuck in the 21st century, unfortunately. Welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny and sometimes smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. I am your Resi Goo, for sure, a solid Captain Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes. I say we boldly get this pod started.
And you're with your no-win Paulnario, Paul Satachit. Oh, that's two. That's two in a row, guys. I did it.
He's on a roll.
You're getting the hang of this, Paul. You're getting the hang of this. Tonight, we are discussing and reviewing the fourth episode of the final season of Star Trek Picard, No Win Scenario, directed by Jonathan Frakes, written by Terry Matalas and Sean Tretta. But just a few reminders before we get going, especially for those who might be watching us live and for our audio listeners. Paul, what are some reminders?
Hey, just a reminder to subscribe to us where you subscribe to podcasts like Apple, Spotify, YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love this content and you would like to join our Patreon for just those dollars per episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod, we'd really appreciate it.
Indeed. Clyde, if people are watching us tonight live on YouTube, how can they participate in the chat?
Write us a letter, put a stamp on it, self-addressed.
Mail.
No, seriously. Type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital Pod in the chat, and we'll take a look at your comment, your question, your thought, your correction. Just let us know. And at that special time when you want to let us know your general thoughts of the show, just type capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat, and we'll take a look at your thoughts.
Indeed. Okay, y'all. Did you? I was gonna for like pod news business. I saw lots of images and things coming in from the Star Trek cruise, and I have to admit that I have never, besides Star Trek Day, been to a con or like a cruise or anything like that. Have either of y'all participated in a con and or cruise situation for Star Trek?
No.
The closest I get, well, I
guess I've done virtual con. We've done virtual Trek cons before, but
like what you call it? Yearly, I go onto the Star Trek Cruise website and I go, "Is this the year? Is this the year I'm gonna go?" But like I think last year around August, right? There was a con in Vegas, and I almost got in, but they had sold out. Like, you know, I was there like last minute, and I was at the I'm sorry, at Bally's, and I'm just playing roulette, and all these people are in their gear, and like I saw this one woman with a Pike jacket. I was kind of like, oh, that's hot. I want to get myself a Pike jacket. I'm sure they're selling it in there. And I go in, I just want to buy a day pass, just one day pass, and they go, sorry, we're sold out. And I'm going like, of course you are. Of course you are. Well, then I will spend more money at the casino.
Oh yeah, you showed them. You showed them. Listen, I've been on a cruise once. It wasn't a great experience. And then after COVID, just the idea of being stuck anywhere, I've been a little like, I was like, oh, I want to do another cruise. This time I'll choose a different cruise line and I'm sure it'll be a better experience. And now I'm like, yeah, I just don't know about all that.
Yeah. I know. I've been thinking about, there was supposed to be the like official Star Trek convention in Seattle this year in May, but they decided to push it back. And I was really bummed because I do enjoy going to Seattle. So hopefully something will pop up, but let us know in the comments, in the questions. Are y'all into the cons, the things? Would you want to see coverage from those things? I know the big problem for me is usually the price of stuff. It's just like you got to have the airfare and then the actual ticket and the hotel. It's just a lot. It's a lot of latinum. You know,
I mean,
maybe.
I guess part of it is for me, it's about the money. I'm not gonna lie, it's always about the money. So if you are, responsible for a Star Trek conference and you'd love to have us there, then please,
we're open.
Hey, we're very open. The other thing is about the agenda for me. It's like what's happening, what's actually going on. Because I love to learn and I love to like watch the panels. But I also am not a huge crowd person.
Yeah.
So the bigger the crowd, the less likely I am to attend, to be honest.
I'm hoping, I feel like we are still living in a pandemic, so that people don't forget that. And I hope that we continue to have virtual options for these events, because I would be buying a virtual ticket and like watching these videos and stuff. So just putting that out there. Anyway, it was just on my brain space. I was also listening to the Pod Directive episode today, and they were talking about, so that got it on my brain space. But
yeah, there's some prices in the chat. Like I said, if you are responsible for a Star Trek cruise and you would like the Star Trek Discovery podcast to attend, maybe even broadcast live,
if the internet works
if the internet works, if that's what you want to do, we can broadcast from port to port or something like that.
I would love to see Harry Kim do his stand-up.
I mean, I'm just saying, if that's something you want and you want to provide us with accommodations and tickets, then reach out to our fearless captain, Myrriah Gossett.
That's right.
We'll make it happen.
That's 3 tickets. Don't have Myrriah there by herself.
I need the whole crew. I need the whole crew.
It'll be like the I'm on a boat video where it goes, Myrriah goes, and I will go with, I got 2 tickets. I go with Paul and T-Pain.
I mean, T-Pain is not a bad partner. So
my go-to karaoke song is "I'm on a Boat." Maybe one day y'all will get to see that performance of a lifetime.
Believe it or not, my very bad karaoke go-to song is "Hey Ya" by
by Outkast.
It's a classic. Good sing along. All right, y'all. I think it is finally time for some hot freaks. It's time for some hot breaks. I mean, my big hot break was I was all about Seven and Shaw for this episode for me.
Yeah, there we go. Come to the dark side.
It was a good time for me, and these the B plot of this episode was a good time for me. I really enjoyed it. I thought there was some really great performances in this episode. I'm glad we're finally out of the wormhole. I was glad to see a round table discussion, classic round table discussion, and some more hints at the mystery. The hand cut off to talk to your boss. What a way to have to check in with your higher ups.
I'm skipping that 101.
It's bananas. I loved going back to Wharf 359. I thought it was an incredible speech. What a great monologue. That's my hot freak. What about y'all? Who wants to jump in?
Listen, I'll say I love this episode. This was probably, I think, of the 4 that we've seen so far, this is definitely my favorite. I just sign me up for we've got a problem. We got to get out of this nebula. There's science. There's ship stuff. We're going to make the impossible happen. Felt very TNG Voyager to me. Like, I love that. So I was like, man, give me one of these every weekend. You got me. Plus you've got this whole saboteur on board and some witty dialogue. You've got some backstory to help us fill out a character. Yeah, I thought this was great. And I'll go ahead and say it now. I'm sure we're going to dive into it, but I felt like I understood Shaw's perspective a lot more. I that doesn't excuse it for me, but it explains it, right?
Yeah,
Clyde's a hard he's a hard win. That's right, yeah.
What about you, Paul?
I feel like you guys are anti-Ralphie and Worf, saying that this is the best episode, even though it didn't include any of those.
I didn't say the words best episode. I said I enjoyed this episode.
No, I'm kidding. I thought the episode was immensely gratifying because it basically pays off 3 other episodes, right? This is the payoff for that. But more than that, I feel like this is probably the best directing and acting of, I almost will say, any of the seasons. Like where I feel like Jonathan Frakes did a great job directing not only like other actors but like himself. with that with his little spiel to Deanna. Like I felt like the writing was on point. Everything was hitting in all cylinders for this one. All crystals. I don't know what's the equivalent to for
all warp drives.
Which is funny because most of the episode is without power. Mm-hmm. So it's all. I mean I really thought like I go like if this were the standard of like all coming Star Trek, it's a high standard as far as like just paying off all the stuff, the serialized Star Treks. Mm-hmm. I think it's great. But but that's me. I'm an easy and obviously. I mean, it goes like Picard, Riker, Beverly, Shaw.
For those listening, Paul is putting Shaw at the top of his list of characters for this episode
because he calls a spade. Like the only Borg so dangerous that he had a name. Oh.
Here's the thing, though. That monologue was very impressive. I think we'll get to that whole scene in a second, but I wanted to jump back to the beginning of the episode, which is we get this flashback, which, according to my digging, takes place 2 years before the events of Picard season 1. So this is fully still human
Nicely
Picard. It is, which is interesting to me that he would. I know you can like teleport and things are much faster in the future, but it's interesting to me that you would go all the way to Los Angeles for Haddock. I thought that was an interesting choice.
Fair. Is it 2 or 3 years? Because I thought Beverly told the kid when he was 18 and now he's 23. I don't know.
So it said 5 years prior. And so according to the star dates, that would be 2 years prior to the events of season 1.
Beautiful.
Actually done.
So, and he's essentially describing no-win scenarios. We love a Kobayashi Maru reference in a Star Trek show. And we have all these young cadets who are just like, please, sir, tell us a campfire story, which I found to be a very interesting setup, that it's like all of these kids watching him instead of like maybe, I don't know. I would have made it a smaller group of like cadets who are like, please, sir. This felt very like I'm giving a lecture.
Over fish.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Myrriah, because I'm thinking like, are they? I don't know. I don't know if this is is this a bar like right near the academy? Like,
well, it's 10 Forward in Los Angeles. It's Guinan's bar.
It's a franchise now.
Yeah, but the question is, why would all of those cadets be in that bar at that time? Right? Like if it was like a group of people who were like, oh, we're meeting up because we're in Los Angeles, and that would make sense, right? If this was a bar on campus, then it would make sense. But that
I guess my caveat of research is I didn't double check that it was Los Angeles, but it looks like the 10 Forward we've seen a bunch of times in Los Angeles.
Obviously, it's a franchise. Guyan is very wealthy now. It's the McDonald's of bars. 10 Forward.
It's similar to Quark. Really cashed in on that franchise.
That's right.
But I did think I thought there was also a fun parallel later. I don't know if y'all noticed it, but when they were in the 10 Forward holodeck, all of those cadets that then came in essentially looked like the older versions of all of those same cadets that were talking to him at the bar. I was like, oh, nicely done. I see what you did here.
Yeah, I was hoping they were actually gonna like
be those same ones,
like tie it back, at least a couple of them or something. Like, I saw you.
Like I really liked about the opening where they just go deep Trek. Like they go like, can you tell us about the time the Herodian hunted you? And then, just out of nowhere, right? And then you go like, oh, did Janeway give you any hints? How did you even get into our quadrant? Blah, blah, blah. I'm going like, oh, so like everything that they were answering, like asking, it was like a Herodians, that's a Voyager thing. Oh, it's Janeway. Oh, they're in the quadrant. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going like, it was just so deep nerd. I just love it.
There was a lot of deep nerd references, I feel like, in this whole episode. And then, our main plot point is the ship is trapped in a gravity well. But I thought it was interesting from I'd say like the third time I saw Beverly doing her countdown, I was like, oh, Beverly is going to solve this problem. Dr. Crusher is about to crush this problem.
I just thought she was going to do it faster. Like,
I also thought it was going to happen a lot sooner. I was like, you are putting it's like, I was so happy when they all finally got around a table, because I was just like, y'all have each been working on stuff. And I feel like if you had talked to each other like 20 minutes ago, we'd already be getting out of here. Like,
yes, it wouldn't be, that we got one more left. It'd been like, we got like 3 more of these. Like, it'd have been something. But I was like, yeah, Beverly, like, come on, like just a teeny bit. Quicker.
To Beverly,
to be fair, there was a bunch of stuff going on in sick bay.
And it's not so much that I didn't think it was slow. It was like, tell someone,
right? Like, hey,
share
there's a pattern.
this.
Anyone else want to help me think about this pattern that seems to be happening here?
Well,
Stop working this on your own.
I will say that, like, she didn't actually solve it, right? She just said, oh, in 2 more pulses, it's gonna blow up. We're all gonna die. And it's Jack who goes like, oh, we can ride the wave. But she's just going like, oh, just so you know, boom.
Well, she correctly identified the problem that was at hand.
Sure.
And then it was about solutioning that problem. Which, and they did it in the traditional, like, oh, it's our backs are against the wall. No one person's got the whole piece, but together we come in and we solve it, and hooray. I listen, I know it's formulaic, but I loved it.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
I also would have liked if we'd gotten maybe 1 or 2 of the bridge crew from the ship to have been involved in like the process, because I think we all know as viewers, especially like folks who have been watching for a long time, all of those characters don't need to prove themselves to us anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we know they can solve this problem. We know it's coming. They're our hero characters. So I would have loved to have seen like the bright young ensign science officer, someone be like, but sir, what about? And it's like, oh yeah, because he makes that point of like, your crew is your family, right?
No.
And like, I was like, I want to see this family working together. And we eventually get that a bit with Shaw and Seven, which I think is why I liked their pieces of this episode maybe the most, because it felt like seeing the potential again. You know what I mean?
Sure. No, I feel like being the Vulcan science officer, or the Asian Bajoran helmsman, or the other person, those are real thankless roles on this show right now. Like, because they're all just saying stuff that you go like, duh, and someone has to be annoying about it, and it's thankless, but it has to be done. Someone has to do it, right?
Well, and and it's interesting because in every other Star Trek franchise, if you were an actor and you picked up the script and somebody said, well, what's your role in this new unnamed Star Trek show, you'd be like, I'm science officer. I'm on the bridge. I'm a science officer. I'm like senior crew. You'd be like, dude, that's amazing. They're gonna develop your character. It's gonna, like, you're gonna be a part of all these things. On this episode, no. Like, you get a couple lines an episode, and I understand why, right? Like, you've got heavy hitters, and the show is really centered around them.
Yeah.
I think the drawback to that is you limit yourself, because, like, I think there is a world where you have a spinoff called Titan,
right?
And it's Shaw and this crew, and you've set up this spinoff for the next one. But you just, like, I gotta want to like these characters, and they seem somewhat interesting. But outside of Crash, I'm just like, you haven't given me much to really grab a hold of.
There's plenty on Shaw, but you don't want it. You don't want it.
Well, you know what though? I mean, here's the deal. I think Shaw is actually very interesting. And now that I have this backstory, because look, prior to this, he was just an ass. Now we see the trauma, right? We see all this trauma. And again, I'm not excusing it. People who have trauma, like, that's an explanation, but it doesn't mean that just because you have trauma, you can treat anyone the way you want to. Like, at the end of the day, I understand that for him calling Seven Commander Hansen that's his thing, but it's a jackass thing. You call people what they want to be called, period, point blank, end of statement.
I got a question. I got a question for you, Clyde. So yes. If you remember the pilot of Deep Space Nine, Sisko is a real jerk to Picard.
He is.
Like, do you go like, I don't like this Sisko person, or did you go like, it's okay, I forgive him?
So first of all, if I had to put these on a scale, Sisko was a 6. Okay, Shaw and that steak bit, and his first words to the captain were, "Well, I figured that your legend, your persona's so far extended into the room. I just eat that whole bit, his whole vibe is so angry, so passive aggressive that he's like
9.9.
He's like on a 12, right? So I mean,
my thing, I thought his interview on the Ready Room was really interesting this week because he essentially is like, he sees Seven as all of the things he cannot be. She's a little rogue. It's probably what he would have been if he didn't go through Wolf 359, right? But it is also interesting to me that essentially Seven has been through, I would say, pretty much the same trauma as Shaw, right? With even more immersive encounters. Being
assimilated, for example,
for the Borg. Yes,
her whole family. Her family was killed, destroyed.
And so I think they have a similar backstory. And so Dream of Dreams, we do get a Seven spinoff in some way, shape, or form, because I was the two of them together, finding this intersection of how they are so similar, but have just processed these similar traumas. But I think it is a valid critique, I think, of Picard's legacy is Shaw, and Sisko, and these characters who are we see your legacy, we see what you've done is important, but there aren't people, there are still people who suffered in the wake of this legacy, right?
Your legacy has a body count.
Well, almost all major players in history have legacies that have body counts, right?
Yes. So, I would say, to me, and watching the Ready Room, was it Todd? I messed up his last name, but the actor who plays Shaw. So Shaw basically says he's not wrong, and I was like, but I can't quite go that far. And part of it is, you want to talk about Picard and Riker's cowboy style. I'm with you, right? You've got this prime directive that they throw out every week because they're cowboys, and we want to say, well, they're cowboys, but they saved the day. If everybody was a cowboy, then it would just be a mess, right? So that I'm with you. Here's my thing about the Borg and Locutus, right? Is that wasn't a cowboy thing. He was assimilated, right? Again, that was beyond his will, right? So if this was him doing cowboy thing and screwing everything up, I ride with you. I'm for you. But in this one particular, everybody who's mad at him is someone who you haven't seen simulation up close. Right,
you make a absolutely valid and compelling point, Clyde. It's
and you disagree. Why?
No, I don't. No, I say that it's, you're absolutely right. It's not Picard's fault. It isn't. I would be assimilated. And then they'll go man, the Borg have just become real jerks. They just assimilated. They assimilated Paul's biological and mental distinctiveness.
Yeah.
But that said, I can appreciate people who have lost loved ones, and are unable to move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you can have, it could still not be your fault and still be your responsibility in a way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of, so prior to us getting, Shaw's, I'd say his big captain monologue, right? Yeah. Is this moment we have between Picard and Jack trying to essentially bond in these moments where they think they aren't going to exist anymore. And for, what it's worth, they're going to try to have some form of connection, or at least Picard is trying to have that connection with Jack. I thought it was interesting that we never really seemed to get much of a connective tissue moment between them. And I did think essentially the scene at the very end where we see that Picard finally puts it together that perhaps the day he went to try to make this connection with him at the bar, he's like, Starfleet's always, of course, been my family. I never needed anything else. I was like, I see the justification, but I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more tension there because I felt like it was getting like I was getting the beginnings of things, but then we had to like, get the ship out of the gravity well. So it was like we kind of lost some of those character moments there. What did y'all think of their interactions?
Yeah, so that whole thing was interesting to me because I was like, oh, this is interesting. It definitely felt like it was more for Picard than anyone else, right? It didn't feel like it was mutual. Like, hey, this is our moment. It felt like, wow, Picard is taking this moment, and then it felt like incredibly prematurely interrupted because one, you got a whole bunch of people come in, and then the next thing you know, he's telling a story, which again it almost seemed like it was a distraction. Like this is supposed to be about him and Jack, but now these people come in. He's telling a story. Everybody's paying attention. Then Shaw jumps in there, like Shaw.
Yeah. Do you think it was? Go ahead.
And I say, and here's the thing that ultimately fell flat for me, is that at no moment did I really feel the tension, right? Like this is episode 4, and I think there's some things that we just know. This is episode 4. I know enough about this series that they're not killing the ship in episode 4. So the tension just did not feel that real to me. It was more like it's like one of those mysteries where the detective's going to solve it. You just don't know how.
Yeah. I also felt like, I wonder what y'all think about Picard picking that location, knowing how he then says, oh, the reason why the holodeck still works is because we know in times of crisis, we need this to work, which I found to be a very convenient line because literally as they walked in, I was like, I thought they just stripped all power from all systems. So they have the battery.
Duracell.
It's connected to the Duracell bunny, but he essentially is like, this becomes a place where people come together in times of crisis. And so it's like, does he know then that this is not actually going to be a space where they can have like fully intimate conversations?
Interesting.
Or do you think he just maybe had some sort of internal thought that perhaps his face looks familiar and he's trying to put the pieces back together in his mind?
No, go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, I don't actually think Picard knows what to do in the situation. Like, it's a completely new thing to him. Like, oh, it's not completely new because, like, in season 7, he had that son that was almost a son but not quite a son. That the Ferengi trick. But like that aside, like here's literally the son of someone your son with someone who you've had deep relationships for like 40 plus years, and the guy doesn't want anything to do with you really. He says so much. He goes like, I don't know. This is like, I don't need that moment, dude, because he already had that moment. We don't know that till the end, but like he already had the moment where like, I know who you are. I don't need you to tell me who you are. So like, but like in some ways, if I were to be unkind, not that I ever would be, because I'm a lovely person.
Never,
right?
You would never be.
But Picard is like, Jack calls it. It's for him. He's doing this for him. He's not doing it for Jack. Jack, and all he really does is basically say like, oh, like Jack even knows it. He goes like, tell me about the most harrowing time you had, and Picard gets to tell this story.
He's like, but your mother told you this story already.
Exactly. And so I think the scene is so well written because it's so complicated as far as like this. No one's getting what they really want except for perhaps Picard, who doesn't even know that like Jack is so far ahead of him until the very end, right?
Do you guys want a crazy Myrriah prediction?
Bring it.
Bring it.
I don't think this Jack Crusher is Jack Crusher the son.
Ooh, fascinating. I think it.
The Jack Crusher that actually exists is somewhere else, and this is some sort of linked entity to Jack.
Like a changeling of some sort, like my prediction last week?
Potentially a changeling. But I feel like if we were going to get more of a changeling vibe, it would we would have seen some sort of, he's like staring at himself in the mirror, right? Like he's having that moment, and we get those flashes. And I was just like, is he secretly like a weird upgraded Borg? You know, because Shaw makes a point of saying in this episode about the Stargazer. So he's talking about the Stargazer from last season, and he's just like, the Borg that you encountered on the Stargazer are not all of the Borg.
Not those weird Borgs.
Not those weird Borgs that want peace. He's like, the other Borgs are still out there.
I'm gonna raise it up and say maybe this is some type of Borg changeling
hybrid.
Like hybrid.
I was also potentially going to toss out, what about the Breen? And we make this a full Dominion team up.
I want to say, like, I think the idea that all this is happening and we're looking at this in the holodeck makes some sense to me, because I think it's like it's a crisis space, right? Like if you got to shut down power, how often have we seen some type of 10 forward-esque place become the place where hostages are held? Like, your choices are either a bar, and in this case, your holodeck bar, or a cargo bay, right? This is where everybody's rattling because we need to, congregate in one point, right? So I think that's why they're there. But to your point, Myrriah, Picard had to know that. That's an interesting kind of revelation. He wasn't going to get, if he really wanted a private conversation, he had to know that wasn't going to be the place. But it's also interesting that I think what I'm struggling with in this whole thing is I want to see Picard mature. And this was a moment where I thought, well, maybe he's maturing and going, let me have this conversation with my son that I don't know. But I also realized that as a parent, when a child, even a 20-something-year-old child, says to you, I don't need this, 9 times out of 10, they're wrong, right? That they're speaking from a place of hurt. And when we think about what Picard said kind of in the flashback, when he's going, Starfleet is the only family I've ever needed. That is true for someone who has never had a family and whose biological family is dysfunctional, right? That is like somebody who's single and has always been singing on, well, don't you want to be in a relationship? I've never needed to be in a relationship. I'm fine. Yes, until you meet that person and then you're like, oh, I want to be in a relationship. And so I don't give any weight to Picard saying that, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt Jack any less. What I'm hoping for is now that Picard has had that revelation, he can be parental in how he comes and address that, right? Like what I don't want to see is him just go, and then don't say anything, like don't address it. Like at this point, the mature thing is to like go to Jack and go, you were there, right? You know, that
Be
was
like,
then.
I know you were there.
I know you were there. Like you heard me say some things. I'm different now. I wish I had known you. If I knew you, I would have needed you. Like all the sappy parental stuff. But
not to go astray and deep nerd, but Picard has been a father and a grandfather in that episode where that mind probe like gave him a whole life in 15 minutes with the flute. So so he actually knows more than Riker, basically.
He's not acting like it.
Yeah, he's not. And I don't know if the writers saw of this, but like, you know, from like, you know, from canon, from Alpha Memory 1 or whatever, like, you know, like Picard has those skills.
Low key, I like that episode, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's a great episode.
I thought I enjoyed that episode quite a bit. Yes. And it doesn't have a whole lot of ships in it. There's no space fights,
which must be amazing episode for Clyde.
It is. It really is.
I wanted to talk about, who do we think Vedic is talking to? So I was like, I paused the credits to see who the voice actor was, and they just title that character as the face is all they're giving us. And I was like, you sneaky guys, you knew I was going to go looking for this.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Enterprise.
I was like, it reminded me of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers,
definitely.
Yeah.
But like, but Enterprise, when the guy was talking through time, it's just me, right? It's just me again. Okay, I have faith of the heart. Anyway, anyway, I have a theory.
Okay, Paul theory. Let me see if I have a banner.
So, as one of the resident experts on changelings, like this is not normal changeling behavior where you can just communicate, blah blah blah, and cut off your hand. That just seems really weird too. Mm-hmm. So because changeling could just Odo just used to drip his hand, I'll give you some goo. So
yeah, they seem to be able to leave goo places.
And these guys don't really act like changeling. Changelings really talk like dopey, weird kind of thing. So my belief is in that hybrid kind of like you said, the Borg changeling hybrid. Mm-hmm. But I think what happened is the changeling, that faction, allowed some people to have changing powers, meld with them or something, and so now they're bound to them by. That's why Vadic was probably one of these people who had her ship and blah blah blah, mm-hmm. and then these people just go I will go through the procedure or whatever, and now I'm bound to these change. And so everyone creates the link, and then I go, maybe Jack is that way too. I don't know. But
you think there's a new, what's the big pool again that they all kind of come from?
The Great Link.
The Great Link. So we know Odo had to go into the Great Link to kind of get back, or to cure everyone from that crazy disease from Section 31, right? And to create peace, Odo essentially went back to the Great Link. Is there potential that that there is another Great Link? Essentially, could there be an evil Great Link? Could the link split?
I don't necessarily think it's evil. P.W. Gregory says the changelings appear ill to me. I think there could be a second Great Link that is ill, so a faction, because I think we heard
because they've left it and they are less.
There's something they tried something, they did something, and that's also why one of the things that we notice is that when in one of my favorite scenes is when Seven kills the changeling pretending to be Ensign LaForge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What we're used to is when a changeling dies, it goes back into its liquid state.
True. And it turns to dust.
This one didn't. Right? It stayed, at least for what we've seen so far, is that it stayed as LaForge. So this feels different. So it feels like it feels lesser. They feel lesser to me, or different, for whatever reason. And I think that's what we're dealing with here. This is an offshoot, because also, I know we've got much better special effects. Mm-hmm. But when they're in their liquid state, that looks disgusting.
Janky. It's janky as hell.
Pussy, and I'm that can't be what a healthy liquid state looks like. That's just,
I don't know. It just looked more fleshy though, and I think that was, I don't know. I feel it's also a special effects upgrade, but
another bit of Star Trek fact that, so when Odo used to turn into the various things, the table or whatever, you couldn't scan for him. That's what made the changeling so hard. It's you couldn't scan. So I don't, unless technology has changed and the residue was going to, the scanners are better. I felt that solution, get the residue and scan for that. That's a non-realistic thing.
Well, I mean, she essentially didn't even have to do it, so we don't even know if it actually would have happened or not, because they had that. She had the encounter in the hallway. So,
well, there's got to be something, because they're not new. Changelings aren't new, and so there has to be some type of protocol to scan. The truth of the matter is, Seven said this a couple times, is that they had a changeling on board far before Jack Crusher. They even knew about Jack Crusher.
So it's going pretty deep as far as what these folks are looking for. So that's my question, is how is Jack the key,
Yeah.
Well, and I think where I was going was, there's got to be a protocol to scan for changelings, right?
There is. You know what they did? in Deep Space Nine, they phasered everything and then forced a changeling to come out. That's what they did. Like there's a whole episode where like that's the new protocol.
Yeah, but I imagine now by this point you've got some type of scan technology that you
I mean, it's not that
have.
far off from Deep Space Nine, though.
Yeah,
well, it's 20 years, right? It's about 20 years. So
yeah, I guess how many iPhones would have come out between the
there you go. 20
years, 20.
Yeah. So maybe
like and never underestimate the ingenuity of like the Federation, but like
true.
But I don't know. I feel like yes, could have they come up with a scan system? Absolutely. I just don't think it was very much in the consciousness after like the treaty of whatever.
Right.
I mean, the reason why I bring that up is just that maybe this new, to Myrriah's point, fleshier version of the changelings allows them to escape detection better than they would have before. Like I'm pulling at the air because I'm trying to make this make sense. I'm trying to make why this weird looking fleshy like liquid.
I think it's just a special effects upgrade, y'all. Like
somebody was like, I like it.
This living scab. That's what it is. It's
but not wrong.
We'll see. We'll see what the it could just Myrriah could be right. You could be right, Clyde. Like we don't know. I can't see the future.
It's true. I did love, so when we finally get the ship sort of like the nacelles come off, I did love that the way that Seven was able to tell that the non-Crush LaForge was not actually Ensign LaForge, was like, oh, we have this respect moment. Shaw gets like, I like that Shaw helped save the day. I was like, I think I needed him to be a part of like the team up, for that. And so I did like that a lot. And
because Shaw's great. He's going to carry a series.
And then we get Riker gets to toss an asteroid at
that was hot.
At the strike. It was pretty great. I did notice so the strike, in order to go back into the nebula, tosses the portal technology, which is now just left somewhere in deep space floating around.
Did they toss it? Or I just thought they turned it off.
No, it came off, and you saw like it come over, and it says Daystrom Institute across the screen. And so you know what time it is. So Peanut Hamper is going to find this portal technology.
Thank you, Myrriah. Oh my God.
It makes it so still clear. Floating around in space.
Oh my God. Thank you. Finally.
I actually was like
Did you think you were going to make it, Clyde? It's
about 15 minutes ago. 15 minutes ago, I said to myself, we're on a roll. Maybe it won't happen. But I was like, I can't tell anybody. I can't like put it in the chat like, man, we're not even talking about Peanut Hamper. This is going to be great. And so I let my guard down. And the minute I do,
Mama said knock you out. Mama said knock you out.
Right into it.
You walked right into that trap, Clyde.
Right into that.
Phaser set the kill. Phaser set the kill.
Myrriah's all, and like the piece came off, and it says Daystrom, and I'm all leaning in like, oh, where's she going? Then Peanut Hamper. Yes,
where everything leads to, which is Peanut Hamper and Badgie take over the universe.
Could you imagine Peanut Hamper with wormhole, like with quantum tunneling technology? Oh my God, she would rock.
It would be super fun. So my actual theory though, with Peanut, it involves maybe Peanut Hamper is, now this is just hanging out. We don't know how these portals work. Potentially this is how we finally get our Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds crossover.
Oh, there we go. It's all happening.
Yes.
It's all happening.
Because we are in the correct timeline right now for there to be some Lower Deck characters. So could be possible.
Myrriah, there's a lot of chat. People are talking about what about the Pa race?
I love that. I love that. Go I think the Chupi start that.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I feel like I would need to brush up on the. I mean, anything like what's going on with Gul Dukat? Like,
well, Gul Dukat and the Pa race are stuck in the dimension because the book is with them. So,
that's right.
According to the prophets, they are never going to get out, and because they have they see all of time at once, I tend to believe them. But if it is the Power Wraith, boom! I love the Power Wraiths. It's like Power Wraith, lore, Picard,
Shaw, peanut hamper.
No, it's like peanut hamper.
What am I gonna do with you guys?
Sacrifice us to peanut hamper. No, but I do wonder what the repercussions of leaving this portal technology is just in the middle of space. And then the other thing that I actually really loved in this episode was when we get all of the space babies call back to encounter at Farpoint. We get our space sort of squid creatures, which I thought looked really cool. I loved having Beverly and Riker give pieces of the OG monologue. I really enjoyed that. So I had a good time with that final like moment of wonder with the crew kind of being like, oh, we're not dead. And now we're just surrounded by cool squids in space. This is nice.
Squids in space.
What else was I going to say? Oh, and then another fun fact of this episode is this is the first time we have heard Picard close an episode with an Admiral's log. And it's the first time he's done any kind of voiceover like this in entirety in Picard, and the first time we've heard a log style voiceover from him since Nemesis. So I was like, it's a milestone of a moment of a Admiral's log.
There we go. He's
And then we have Jack having visions. We finally get shirtless Jack, which I feel like some people were waiting for potentially. But I noticed he was wearing dog tags, and I'm wondering where those came from and who
I didn't even notice that.
Who those might belong to.
Probably the production designer.
I was like, are dog tags like something that's still issued? I don't have like a lot of memory of like there being. I feel like people have like the pins and
I don't think dog tags are a Star Trek thing, but maybe it's a ranger thing or like a
medical doctor thing, maybe.
Basically, it'd be the equivalent to an outer rim type situation, like like just on the edge of Federation space, kind of. Here's my blood type and my my vaccination status.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll get some more about that because it doesn't quite make sense.
Chippy's like maybe it was just a necklace. Maybe I'll double check. I only had time to watch this 1.5 times today. I watched it all the way through, and then I sped through to watch a couple scenes I had questions about. But
I thought dog tags too. So okay. You're not alone in that, Myrriah.
Double check. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's like a Lord of the Rings thing, and it's the necklace is calling him back to a collective.
Oh yeah, no, like there's the Space Mordor, that's.
and Picard becomes Gandalf.
Yeah, exactly. Like, maybe what our goal should be, right, is just to have like Clyde like on air go, guys, I got signed off. Boop.
No,
gone.
Listen, I mean, you're not gonna chase me out of here with Space Mordor.
Yeah.
Right. I'm okay. That's weird, but sure. Sign me up.
So
I mean, we just had space babies that were like
birthed out of a nebula.
Yeah. So
and last season we had those weird ass Borg. Like it's
we're all in for the ride. It's going to be a good time. We didn't cut away from the ship at all this episode. Our B plot was with Shaw and Seven, and so we are now finally out of the nebula. I'm assuming we are heading to the starbase where we're finally going to team up with Geordi LaForge, is what I'm assuming is happening next episode. But I could be wrong.
It could be the next episode is an all Worf Ralphie episode.
I would also be happy with that. Chippy points out we also got an Odo cameo in here. We did when they were looking at the pads.
Yeah, I always feel sad. The actor who played Odo is gone. Like it's sad.
Yeah, but I feel like this show does a good job of like naming stuff and providing small legacy pieces to kind of keep those characters alive in the spaces. Much like they keep, I think it's hilarious that so the planet that Rafi and Worf are on, and that who was talking about it in this episode? Oh, I think Jack was telling a story about being on Metalis and how much of a piece of crap planet it is and how awful it is. And the fact that that's named after their showrunner, I think is hilarious.
Oh, love it, love it, love it.
So that was a good time. But any other fun predictions or other things you want to talk about this episode? It was action packed. There was a lot going on, but I feel like, again, we've like finished a piece of this puzzle. I don't think. Oh, my big question: is this the last we see of Vedic?
No.
I did too much. She's been there for 3 and
only on her ship. I need to see her off ship.
Well, and if that ship had actually destroyed on camera, then I'd be like, oh, maybe. But no, it just looked like it was bruised a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it'll be fine.
They're going into warp meltdown, so
on the verge of warp meltdown.
Yeah,
on the verge, but we did not see it explode.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which to me means that something's going to happen. They're going to be okay. We're going to see some. It's hard to know because, again, I think we're getting 10 episodes.
Yeah.
All right. So we're 40% of way through the season, right? And we in this episode we barely got Vedic. Vedic is a phenomenal big bad, but we are told that Laura's coming, Moriarty's coming, and like I said, 40% through. So it could be a situation where we shift to a new big bad. Even though I think Paul's hoping that Laura is going to save the day, but
Laura will save the day. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. But like that's not the point. I guess my question is like, who do you think the hand, the face behind the hand is? Because I suspect that it's someone in the Star Trek universe. Because Vedic is new, I feel like someone. It should be someone who has
some tie-in,
a vendetta against the Federation. I'm curious who you think that might be.
Yeah, I don't know if it's any clue, but it is voiced by a Los Angeles weatherman.
Oh, well,
who also does voiceover work.
But okay, well,
that would explain his cloudy and thunderous demeanor.
Oh, Clyde! Oh, wow. No, Clyde! Get out of here, Clyde! That was the last straw.
I mean, sorry about that. Yeah,
like who would have? So it would be someone who has access to changelings, and someone who has a vendetta against the Federation. Like
the Breen.
The Breen could be it. Like we've just never heard the Breen speak English, so it makes it a hard.
That's why he was so groggy.
But like it's just interesting. Like I wonder who it would be. Like someone. Anyway,
I got nothing, but I can't wait to find out.
I am wondering. So the next 2 episodes are directed by Dan Liu, who has done mostly, I'll say, horror genre things and some sci-fi things and some big action shows. So to me, that means I'm hoping we get cool fight scenes. It gets a little dark, a little twisty.
I mean, Dan Liu did A Strange New World. He what do you call it? All Mankind. Like some
Walking Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of Walking Dead.
Well, I have seen a little bit of the clip during the Ready Room, so I know we're gonna get some Worf back left action. Yeah, and I'm for it. Like I saw it and I was like, no, I can't wait till next week. I need to see all of that scene, and then maybe rewind it and watch it 2 more times. Like I'm for it. Like I think I'm interested in seeing it, see where it goes. It'll be a nice departure. Like I got the whole ship. I'm excited about next week. And I think we're gonna I think what I'm most curious about at this point is how they're gonna tie in this Worf Rafi storyline to the kind of Picard, Riker, Beverly, Jack storyline. And we know that both of them have experienced changelings, but that means that this is just pieces of a bigger plot. And so the question for me is, how fast is this going to be put together? Next episode, 3 episodes from now, never? that's what I'm excited about.
What if it's Thomas Riker?
Ooh.
That would be a deep cut.
I mean, the next episode is titled Imposter.
Like because I'm thinking like because maybe Thomas Riker, he was in a Cardassian prison planet. He was left for dead and pissed off. He would have had access to like like the second time that he's been left to die by the Federation. Like and now like he would have access to changelings theoretically. I don't know. I'm just trying to put pieces all together. I'm literally, as we're talking, going through 7 seasons of Star Trek, 7 seasons of Deep Space, 7 seasons of Voyager,
just a little light work.
As we're talking, like my positronic matrix is overheating right now.
You're going into warp core meltdown.
That's right.
Well, Paul, maybe it's Thomas Riker, and it's like Sayla, Tasha Yar's Romulan clone. Like let's just bring them all in here. We'll throw in we'll throw them all in.
That would actually be really cool. With is it Sela or Sayla? I don't know if I pronounced her name right. But like but like so the Romulan, like, so she blamed Picard for the death of the Romulan Empire because he wasn't able to do that. She's known for being an intelligence operative, so she's able to do, and so she just changed her voice to sound like a dude for the hand thing, and she's menacing and she's talented. I like that. I like that, Clyde. Yes. Thomas did wind up going to like what you call it, Cardassian jail.
Yeah,
he wasn't killed though.
I have to admit, every time you say Kardashian, I keep thinking of the Kardashian of the Kardashians. Yeah, I'm thinking
it would be really funny if someone did like an SNL skit that was like the Kardashians, but it's like they look like Cardassians.
No, I think it'd be great.
Or if we could get a Kardashian to have a guest starring role as a Kardashian.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, no, like we just have Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Boom, there you go. It writes itself.
All right. I think I caused us to go way off the rails there.
No, I think it's great. Like
and I know exactly who can help out with that. It's Peanut Hamper. She's gonna come on in and be the star of that show. Okay. Anything else, y'all? Bye, Clyde. Anything else y'all wanted to talk about in this episode?
No, I'm excited. I think it's gonna be. I'm excited to see what happens next. So, good episode.
I think I'm pretty. It's all pretty good right now. Like I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of last episodes, but I thought I understood what I was doing. I felt like this episode really wrapped it up in a way that I liked. Like it was worth the 4-episode arc. So and I'm eager to see Worf and what's called and
Rafi.
Worf and the gang. Like, but who knows? Like maybe Worf dies. That maybe Worf is the.
That was the big question I was going to have for y'all. Do you think this whole season is going to lead up to? I don't even know if I want to say it. Do you think?
Say it. A Myrriah theory. We need a Myrriah theory.
I have a banner.
Okay. Yeah.
Where did it go? Do you think they're going to kill Picard at the end of this?
Like, I mean, like
yes.
Like his positronic robot body. I mean, like
it can wear out.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be in like a violent. It could be like we just get a flash, like a 6 Feet Under style finale where we see where everyone ends up. We get the epilogue, and it's like Picard on his deathbed, surrounded by his both biological and Starfleet family.
I haven't thought about this before. I don't know anything. I'm gonna call my shot. I think that ultimately Picard will give his life for the crew and for his son in some capacity, right? Like I think at the end, now that you asked the question, yeah, I think I don't think Picard makes it out of this this
Because
episode.
they keep being like, it is the final season, and I'm like, if you're gonna fully close that book, is there any other way to fully close that book?
I mean, you've already like killed him once, and so like,
so my thing is like, I think he's gonna basically have coffee with Laris at the very end, because they set up in the beginning, I'm waiting for you at this coffee shop. Mm-hmm. So I personally think that, like, you know, they don't have the whatever the Starfleet, you know, the 21st century version of cojones is to kill Picard, but I think he'll have a nice sweet ending where he goes into like a legitimate retirement.
Do you think anyone dies? Like,
I'm always hoping that someone dies, because because you know I'm awful. That's my part of my biological and mental distinctiveness.
So you're okay if that someone is Shaw?
You take that back, Clyde. You take that back. You know,
what?
Like, I think the person. I don't think they're going to kill anyone. I think I don't think they're going to kill anyone.
Besides a lot of changelings.
A lot of faceless, like pussy, like you know, basically human Play-Doh. You know, but yeah, I mean, you know who I think he'll kill. You ready for this? Riker.
Whoa.
No.
I think Riker is the one who, you know, like he's got his redemption arc, like where he goes like, oh, I really want to be with my family, blah blah blah, but I need to save the world, blah blah blah. I think it's his Riker moment. You don't like that, do you, Clyde? You don't like that.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just that Jonathan Frakes has a habit of showing up in many
every series.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's probably written in his contract, you cannot kill me off. I have too much fun. And you have him as a director. Like, he's not going to sign up as to direct without actually being able to do a cameo. I expect to see him in a Section 31 show.
Right.
Listen, it would not surprise me to see him in a Strange New World show at some point.
Well, apparently he directed the crossover ep.
Oh, did he really?
Mm-hmm. They were talking about on the pod directive. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get something like it won't be Riker. It'll be like a Riker.
Lana makes a good point. Maybe they kill Lore every season. A Brent Spiner must die.
I'm not gonna lie, that's hilarious.
That is pretty hilarious.
Like, that is very hilarious. I mean,
he's got to hold the record for the character or the actor in Star Trek who's been killed off the most. It's gotta be Brent Spiner in some form or fashion.
Yeah. All right. We don't have to keep talking about the death. It was just a big question I had at the end of this episode.
Yeah, no, it's good. No, that's a good question. Like, I'm really interested to see. But I think Laris is gonna get her man, and Picard's gonna read a book at the end of his life.
Yeah, he's gonna finally finish his memoir.
And like you know, like there and back again. You know, a Hobbit's journey.
He's got to get ready to become Gandalf.
That's right.
The bald.
Yeah, like the Borg come and he goes, "You shall not pass."
I did just remember though. I thought it was so funny that literally the ship is possibly going to explode, and Jack's question is, "When did you lose your hair?"
I mean, listen, I want to say that doesn't make sense, but I have a 5-year-old son who asked me that question all the time. No. Like, when did you lose your hair? I'm like, don't worry about it. Your grandfather has much hair. You're fine. And he's looking at me like, am I going to lose my hair? I'm like, you're 5. Why are you worried about this? So I can understand that when Jack, looking at Picard for the first time, he's looking and going, I need to know. Like, I like my locks. Like, do I get to keep them?
He's got the perfect bedhead going on at all times. Okay, guys, I think that is it for tonight. You can subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on Apple. You can also leave us stars on Spotify if you feel like doing that. Visit StarTrekPod.co to find links to everywhere you can share the show. You can find us on social media. You can find our Patreon. Shouts to Karen, who helps run our Twitter. We appreciate you. The other thing is I know there's been some chat on Twitters today, and I'm going to try to connect with the fine folks over at the Duras podcast and Strange New Pod about doing sort of a big thing next year for the last season of Disco. So doing some fun rewatches, recaps, and then a disco ball with some awards is in the talks.
Disco ball, baby.
A disco ball. So that should be a good time. So keep an eye on the Twitters over there. Thank you all so much for joining us on Star Trek Discovery Pod. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye.
Long and prosper, everyone. Boom.
Later.